Welcome to Georgia, and we don't mean the US state, but the country of 3.7 million people, nestled between Europe and Asia, with Russia to the north and Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Turkey to the south. This year, Georgians went to the polls in what could be one of the most pivotal elections in the nation's history. And when we say pivotal, we mean it. Both sides are framing it as a choice that could redefine Georgia's future. The ruling party, Georgian Dream, has set the stakes high, claiming the election is essentially a vote between peace and war. They've even plastered billboards across the country, showing the devastation in Ukraine alongside images of peaceful Georgian cities, sending a clear, yet pretty controversial, message about the threat of conflict with Russia. The Georgian Dream has been in power since 2012 and has gradually become more authoritarian, conservative, and aligned with Russian interests. Although they officially claim to support EU integration, their actions tell a different story, with laws and policies that conflict with EU principles. In fact, the EU has paused Georgia's accession process, highlighting concerns over Georgian Dream's direction. On the other side, the four main opposition parties, and even the president, view this election as a turning point. For them, it's a choice between a future aligned with Russia or the democratic West and the EU. They are united in their pro-EU stance and see Georgian Dream, with its Russian-leaning policies, as a serious threat to Georgia's future. So basically, this election boiled down to Georgian Dream versus a united opposition front. To stay in power, Georgian Dream needed over 50% of the vote, especially since none of the opposition parties want to form a coalition with them. Instead, the opposition aims to join forces to oust the Georgian Dream and steer Georgia towards a pro-EU future. So what happened? Drama. Lots of it. It all kicked off on Saturday morning when the polls officially opened. Things quickly turned chaotic, with violence reported at multiple polling stations. They beat us, spat at us, swore at us, reported an election official near a polling station in eastern Georgia. Elsewhere, witnesses claimed to have seen a Georgian Dream party coordinator handing cash to a voter. In another alarming incident, a man said to be connected to the ruling party stuffed a ballot box with multiple ballots. The video spread rapidly, fueling the allegations of election fraud and manipulation. Nevertheless, the polls closed with an exceptionally high voter turnout, 59%. And then, at 10 p.m. Georgian time, the first exit polls dropped, and chaos erupted once again. Two polls showed Georgian Dream trailing 10% below the critical 50% mark, hinting that the opposition could form a pro-EU coalition. Huge news for the opposition, right? Well, maybe not. Another exit poll painted a different picture, showing Georgian Dream with a solid win at 56%, sparking immediate confusion. Both sides claimed victory. Bidzina Ivanishvili, the elusive billionaire behind Georgian Dream, quickly celebrated, while the United National Movement leader urged Georgian Dream to step down, arguing that Georgians had clearly voted for a pro-European future. So which exit poll was accurate? Hard to say. Pro-opposition polls showed significant gains for the pro-Western parties, while pro-government polls declared a win for Georgian Dream. Then, a couple of hours later, the official results started rolling in. And by Sunday morning, the seats of the 150-seat parliament were allocated as follows. In first place came the Georgian Dream coalition, the conservative Russia-leaning alliance of two parties. Second place went to Coalition for Change, a liberal alliance of four pro-European parties committed to reform and modernizing Georgia. Third place went to Unity National Movement Coalition, a group of liberal conservatives focused on closer ties with the West, including the EU and NATO. And fourth place went to Strong Georgia, a center-left coalition of four parties, all of which support EU membership. And finally, in fifth, we have the For Georgia coalition, a center-left social democratic group of two parties, also pushing hard for EU integration. There are also other parties, but as they got under 5%, they've not gotten any seats in the parliament. So, these official results mean that Georgian Dream has won an absolute majority and can govern for the next 4 years without needing to form a coalition. But the plot thickens. All major opposition parties in Georgia are rejecting the election results, calling them rigged and fraudulent. Leaders claim the ruling party has stolen the European future from the people.
Two credible, international, very experienced, separate polling companies showed exit poll results that had the opposition leading with a very wide margin of 10%. And yet we saw the Central Election Commission publish results that are the complete opposite, giving the Georgian Dream an unthinkable advantage. We believe, we are convinced, and we are certain that this is due to election fraud.
And it's not just the opposition calling fraud. We Vote, a coalition of top NGOs, urged that the election results be annulled. They reported widespread fraud, including manipulation of the verification system, obstructing observers, distributing extra ballots, and pressuring voters through personal data collection. They claimed the ruling party also used vehicles to mobilize voters and applied intense pressure, with many voters essentially held hostage by the ruling party's tactics. We'll have to wait and see what unfolds, but brace for massive protests and likely a tough police response. But if the result stands, with Georgian Dream winning the election, does that mean EU accession is on hold indefinitely? To get a clear picture, we need to dive into a bit of background. Georgia has been on a strong pro-Western path ever since gaining independence from the Soviet Union. In fact, the country's commitment to full EU and NATO integration was locked into its constitution back in 2018. And it's not just a government ambition. Georgians are on board too. In 2024, polls showed that a whopping 71% of Georgians supported joining the EU, and that 57% were in favor of NATO membership too. In the aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Georgia stepped up its efforts by applying for EU membership, right alongside Ukraine and Moldova. The EU responded by granting Georgia candidate country status, but it came with strings attached. Georgia had to meet 9 key priorities, ranging from cracking down on disinformation to improving human rights. But here's the catch. According to the EU, Georgia under the Georgian Dream's rule has made little progress toward meeting these 9 required priorities. In fact, they've gone into the opposite direction, passing several controversial laws that have raised both domestic and international concerns. One key law, the Law of Transparency of Foreign Influence, passed in April 2024, which requires organizations receiving 20% or more of foreign funding to register as foreign agents. Critics argue it harms NGOs and media by undermining their credibility and increasing government control. Then in May 2024, Parliament passed another law giving tax breaks to offshore companies speculated to attract Russian assets under sanctions. And then finally, in October 2024, the Georgian Dream passed a law on family values, which bans LGBTQ+ activities and censors films and books, echoing Russia's anti-LGBTQ policies. As a result, the EU has hit the pause button on Georgia's EU accession process, and the European Commission even decided to withhold 120 million euros of funds that were supposed to go to Georgia. And on top of all this, there's another major challenge for Georgia: territorial conflicts. If we look at a map, there are 2 Russian-controlled areas within Georgia, Abkhazia and South Ossetia. The EU typically avoids taking in new members with unresolved territorial disputes, so potentially Georgia has a significant hurdle to clear before it can join the EU. So, will Georgia join the EU anytime soon? No, we really don't think so, at least not with the Georgian Dream in power. And with the Georgian Dream already threatening to ban opposition parties, this looks unlikely to change anytime soon. The bigger question is, how will the EU respond to this alleged fraudulent election? None of the EU leaders have so far congratulated Georgian Dreams, with the exception of Orban, of course. In fact, Moldova might be closer to joining, especially after passing a pro-EU referendum recently. And if you're interested in more, check out our video analysis on Moldova's progress here. Plus, there are 8 other candidate countries vying for EU membership, and we've ranked them from most likely to join next to least likely, so be sure to watch that video too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us further, consider joining our Patreon. Until next time.